toe.
I wish that was my hand.
He was asking me.
Donovan, and who's on deck?
Tommy.
Tommy, you're on deck.
And then Richard.
And then Richard.
Oh.
And Lauren Call.
Do you know how to fix it?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, tell us.
Bring it.
Oh, and just move the whole microphone like that way a bit so they can frame you better. There we go. Now we're talking. All right, there you set.
Yes, okay. Wait, yeah, that's fine. Sorry. Alright, so I hated these poems until today, and I kind of fixed them up, so yeah.
Do shit.
Do shit.
Go! Good.
Trying to become someone else, I tore off pieces of myself. Bone by bone, lash by lash, removing muscle filaments, tearing off ligaments. I dripped out all the blood, drop by drop, drained till the bleeding stopped. I looked so pale, flimsy, saggy. It's a wonder I could even stand upright. This thing in my sight, is it even me? I removed myself, each piece crumbled off so easily, and I noticed how easy it is to break, and I never considered the impossibility of going backwards. As my form collapsed, shards of broken glass lay on the ground. And in my quest for auto-affection, I've severed the sections that constitute me. Where am I? Was that so incorrect? To want the mirror to reflect something I could love? Was that so wrong to push forth a melancholy song of self-distortion in hope to feel at least a portion of esteem? Despite the contortion going awry, it was worth a try. Cumulus clouds bathed in sunlight, floating softly till out of sight. I too am suspended in unending blue, floating atop an ocean, alone, all alone. In a rocking chair of waves, propped up in an ever-changing seafoam throne, I'd like to call this place my home, but I do not exactly know where I am. Maybe if we dammed up all this water, we could count all the fish in the sea until we see the ones we want to keep seeing for eternity, but probably not. I'll likely keep floating, searching until I rot, or by death's merciless fish net get caught. Forget me not, soulmate I'll never meet. Alright, I'll read one more because I want to save for the other half. My dad is dead, but that's okay because my mom is hella sick. And the last time I spoke to him, I was playing video games. I'm like, he was talking to me, but like I couldn't understand what he was saying. I was just like, the fuck is this guy saying? Anyways. Incoherent rambles, slurred speech, inexplicable symbols of meaning that time you had called me. I dismissed you, gave you half attention, and that was our last exchange before you left this dimension, but I didn't know that at the time. Where are you now? What did you mean to tell me? Would you feel proud if you saw what I was to be? At least I kept up the lie before you had to die. I feigned affection, a false reflection to save your feelings, and I guess that helped the healing. Now I'm kneeling in the dark with my knees red between the carpet. Now I'm kneeling in the dark with my head and my arms on the foot of my bed, wondering, wishing I knew what you said. Were you trying to break bread, your life hanging by a thread? 'Cause I know only weeks later my mom came in my room at 3 a.m. to tell me you were dead. All right, part 2 at the end.
And you done it there.
Who?
Who?
Tommy.
No, wait a minute, it's the
Are you
other
just
Tommy.
rambling?
It's the other Tommy ever called that. Give him a round. He is the lady of the evening. honestly speaking.
And the next is Richard May.
Cosa dici? Cosa dici?
What?
Cosa dici?
Yeah!
What the hell are you saying?
I'll get back to you.
In very crude translation.
Thank
Okay, so the first thing I want to do is make a plug for Queerbound, which is the queer and trans open mic safe space for queer and gender nonconforming people. It's once a month, Alley Cat Books. This Saturday, everybody's welcome. You don't have to be queer or gender nonconforming. And it's 6 to 9 p.m. at Alley Cat Books on 24th and Bryant, I think it is.
you. But you have to give me the stuff so I can put it on the calendar too.
Yes.
I got 2 things to put on the calendar now.
Okay, so we all know what today is, and so I was reflecting on how a tragedy became another tragedy, or a tragedy begetted another tragedy. America, stop using one tragedy to justify another. Stop killing in my name. Stop calling people terrorists who've done nothing to me. Stop pretending you're defending my freedom when you're making military contractors and oil companies richer. 18 years of unending bloodshed. Are you proud of the dead and orphaned children? The bombing at weddings? The terror you've spread? An unfit parent. You've even sacrificed your own sons and daughters. Do you make money on body bags too?
No.
Stop invoking patriotism to keep me silent. It never worked and it never will. I'm the nagging voice in the back of your head. The conscience you don't think you have. The snake who's just slipped into your pants. And I mean every word of it. As Nina Simone once said. And she did. So, how many people here remember Bewitched, the TV series?
Oh my God!
Okay. You remember the song?
Samantha.
Remember the song? Bewitched, bewitched. You know you are bewitched. Okay. So I decided to give those lyrics a little makeover.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I love making over old insipid lyrics. Here it is. Be best, be best.
Oh God.
Whatever does she mean? Be best, be best. She makes me wanna scream. She's got no human feelings, I'm told. She's icy and so damn cold. Just like the man she's married to. She don't give a damn about me and you. That's the best she can be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the best. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The very best she can be.
That's one of the famous.
The best.
I mean, it's like,
It's gotta be one of the stupidest phrases ever uttered by anybody.
well, there's also "I'm the president" said by George W. Bush.
Oh well, yeah. Well, that blithering idiot.
I know. The apologies to idiots.
Something in a lighter mood. This is we know we're going into the fall, the season.
Yes.
Not the fact that the country's going downhill, but which it is.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, well, anyway, this is about fall. Back then, it was the beginning of another school year. The leaves falling from the trees, time to cover the gardenia in the old wash tub in the yard, and to uproot the basil, removing the leaves from the stems so Mama could freeze them for her tomato sauce, saving the seeds for the spring. It meant days that were chillier, nights that extended into early morning, no more water ice in the evenings after dinner, having to wear jackets, cold rains, ashen gray skies, having a sense that spring may never come. And I guess a few weeks ago we had a theme, Love Me or Leave Me.
Yeah.
I didn't read it back then, but here's my version of it. It's strictly love me and leave me. No commitments, no complications. We have no rings or vows, no mortgage, no white or lavender picket fence. We're not procreating. Heteronormative is not an option. We hook up when we want. Do what makes our bodies feel good. We're not God-fearing or patriotic, not trying to fit in or fulfill anyone's fantasies. We don't need euphemisms. You can ask, we'll tell. We're fuck buddies. Wait a minute. Okay, I can get these little quickies in. So this is called Dogs. And think about what I'm saying here. I know a lot of people won't agree with me, but think about this. They traded their freedom for food, for the warmth of a blazing fire, the protection of a wooden spear, a cave. Now, on a starry night, they don't howl at the moon. They sit by a window, staring out, envying the passing coyotes. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, finally, I'm going to end with, there was a story recently in, I forget which newspaper, it could have been the Times, the Post, about some of, psychologically, what's happening to the kids in the cages that unfortunately this country continues to have. He can't feel his heart. It's dead. Not even beating. Gone. Vanished. His feelings, dreams, hopes, crushed. 6 years old and not knowing when or if he'll ever see his parents again. One day, they were with him on a long, dusty, hot journey. Now, they're gone. He keeps thinking they'll be back any moment, but they're not. The days, weeks, keep moving on, and he can't feel his heart. He doesn't want to. Doesn't want to know he has a heart to remind him of where he is in a cage. Children all around him are crying. Hungry babies, no food, water. What good is a heart? It only aches, shatters. Every heartbeat hurts. He doesn't need, never will need a heart again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, you're up. Robert Rubino is on deck.
Richard May and Robert Urbino on the proverbial deck.
So I have 2 short monologues for you guys tonight. I believe that they both qualify under the topic of food for thought. So those of you in a certain demographic may remember Patty Chayefsky and his play Network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last night, I got up here and I asked you people to fight for your heritage. And you did. The Arab takeover of CCA has been stopped. A radiant, nostalgic eruption of people power. But we know this isn't how things can be run. Because we know that in the bottom of all our terrified souls that democracy is a dying giant, a decaying political concept. I don't mean that the United States is finished as a world power. The United States is the richest country in the world. What we know is finished is the idea that any country can be dedicated to the freedom and flourishing of every individual in it. You see, we're no longer a nation of individuals. This is a nation of 300-odd million transistorized, deodorized, mass-produced human beings. Regulated, programmed to consume and produce other mass-produced products. Well, the time has come to ask, is this such a bad thing? Our bellies are full, our needs are met. Maybe it's time to wake up and realize this is evolution. That not what matters is any single one of us. We are not the meaning. Human existence is an utterly futile and purposeless thing. Grasp that, and the whole damn universe becomes orderly and comprehensible. You have no power. Democracy has no power. Politicians have no power. No one really has power. But it works. And how it works is accepting that we are not the emperors of ourselves. We are bees in the hive. It is not our individuality which makes us rich, but our communality. We must ask how we can advance the whole rather than the individual. Each one of us just a tiny node in the grand, glorious network. Thank you. So this one was mostly written by a person named Matthew Weiner, but I had significant input. So anyway, I think that's a correct derivation. What are the experiences in life? They're like doors. The first time you come to one of these doors, you say, what's on the other side of that door? Then you open a few of these doors and you say, I think I'm going over that bridge this time. I'm tired of doors. Finally, you go through one of these things and you come out the other side and you realize that's all there are. Doors and gates and windows and bridges. And they all open the same way. And they all close behind you. Look, life is supposed to be a path. You go along and these things happen to you. They're supposed to change you, change your direction. But that's not true. Turns out these experiences are nothing. They're just some pennies you pick up along the way and you stick them in your pocket and you keep going in a straight line to you know where. You know, I used to jump off mountains. And it never occurred to me that I had this invisible parachute. My mother loved me. And in some completely pointless way, it's gone. So there it is. When she died, she gave me my last new experience. Now I know that all I'll be doing from here on is losing everything. I'm just acknowledging that life will eventually end and somebody else will get the bill. Thank you.
Robert Rubino.
And Guy, you're on deck.
Guy on deck. Oh yeah. Here, I'll raise it up. I'm professional. Okay, and you get really close and go straight in.
Thank you.
There you go.
It's a pleasure to be here as always. This is an actual old person, me,
Oh.
talking to an imaginary much younger person. And the name of the poem is I Like Ike.
I still like Ike.
When I was your age, the subway cost 15 cents. Gas cost 32 cents a gallon. Television was free. And so was sadistic Saturday confession and masochistic mass on Sunday when I was your age. Baseball didn't have designated hitters and hockey goalies didn't hide behind scary, angry, grotesque, Marvel-esque masks. And neither did uppercase R Republicans, because they were also lowercase r Republicans, and reputable too, most of them. And the Republican popular president, who actually won the popular vote twice by landslides, had been a 5-star star of a real reality show, the definitive blockbuster. Ratings went through the roof. It was called D-Day, and it liberated Europe from radical right-wing monomaniacal whack jobs. When I was your age, now don't get me wrong, we didn't live in utopia, no way, far from it. But hockey goalies didn't wear masks when I was your age, and uppercase R Republicans, while not exactly woke, didn't hide behind antebellum, anti-republic, boorish, bullying cult of preening personality dysfunction. Thank you.
Guy? Oh, are you new?
No.
Oh, sorry about that. I always ask because I can't remember anything.
Brandon is on deck.
What?
I'm sort of maniacal. I send out a lot of stuff. I've had like 700 rejections.
Only?
But, over 100 acceptances.
That's good.
And
Here,
whenever I get one back, I say fuck them and send it out twice.
That's
This
right.
one came back today. November 8, 2016. Dad, she says, I'm scared. Me too, honey, I say. We're walking down the dock, 9:30 on a chilly November night. The unthinkable has just happened. Trump won. We've been stung. The world is sideways. The pendulum swings in a direction I can't place. No, Dad. She says, I'm really scared. Why is that, honey? We reach the rickety gate to our ramp and pause in the dark. And she looks at me. I'm queer, she says. What's that? I say. Not straight, she says. Oh, you mean you're bi? Gay? No, Dad. Queer. As a kid, queer was a pejorative word, a strike, a vulgar accusation, a stab. I hugged her. I'd never loved her more than in that moment. So moved was I by her trust, by the glimpse of her world to which I had been entrusted, her fear, and I held her just a moment longer. I hold her still, though she is not in my arms. and not my little girl, but a proud, open, cheerful queer, as she once said, teaching me, like people do, those warriors of light who brighten the room, light up the world on a dark night on a cold dock, bearing the light in the early hours of the dark days that had befallen us.
All right. So glad to be back here. I've been out for about a month or so, trying to settle some affairs back at the old place. This is home. It's very difficult, but this is home for me to start referring to it as such. If you could take just a few seconds to look to the person to your left, and then a few seconds to look to the person to your right. They're real people. Take care of them. They're very special. We have a very small number of poets in this world, and this particular piece, make it no secret that Oklahoma is not a place I can be very sober at, but California fortunately offers me some wonderful things. This particular piece is special to me because I have only presented it publicly once, and it was to an audience that you could say is much less real. So I will let your mind wander in terms of what that means, but that's the story behind the story. But the story itself, very shortly, is about, this piece is about all the madness that we will follow people to, whether we should or not. And so it is called There Is No God in Heaven. There is no God in heaven. He went down, chasing his best friend, who he last saw clinging to the stars on his greatest of falls. Somewhere, he's lost in perdition's maze, screaming the name of his former lover, hearing nothing but the echo of an abyss, a prison of infallible design. Virgil was no help, too tired to be a guide. He lacked the trickster's eye for which places were best to hide from judgment's omniscience. They were both right. To reign was well worth ambition, but no army in heaven or hell could fight the loneliness of eternity, missing the other. So God tried each station of torture, seeking to find the seed of the fruit, which caused so much anger and growth he could not help but love. In his mind, Lucifer's found above, sitting in his throne, crying alone, missing him, wondering what war is worth being won. Thank you.
Jean.
Oh,
And Tony, you're on deck.
are you? This is your first time here?
No, I was here last in 2002.
Oh, okay. Let's treat her like a new one. Come on, new Oh, just get really close.
Yeah, so 2002, I was here with Steve Mackin.
Oh,
He
yes.
lived here, and Steve was my best friend. And I'm here for a month in San Francisco, kind of meeting up with old friends. So I thought I'd come along and read one of his.
Oh, beautiful.
And then read one of mine.
Where are you from?
I'm from London.
Thank you.
So this is called Atalanta at Altitude. Steve and I travelled in the Grand Canyon together in 2002, and he wrote this. It's from a poem of the Wounded God. Atalanta and the Wounded God had a drink together in the Arizona. She complained about the thinness of the air. I can't run here, she moaned. This morning I found myself supine upon this earth's cold bones, gasping, begging for my breath. The god, with bloody finger held aloft, could only smile and toy with the apples on his plate. "I've come too late," she whined. "The race is all but ended, and the trees are strange, and I can't catch my breath, and what is this?" She pushed the rice around her plate. "There's fire here I've never felt. I think I'll melt. My mouth is now a subject to desire, and oh my God, I love it here." This one is called Thinking About Frida Kahlo. She was never complete after the accident, depleting those velvet dresses with sterile lubricants. I read between the lines of her severed face, see how that virile column holds together her broken self, how still life becomes her. Behind erotica's plumage, the internal plumbing is enough to make any stomach sink to the pit of itself. Her ego inflates as it hatches into iconism. All it takes is a few nips and tucks in a bunk bed she shares with death. Love is suspended inside her incisive frame. She prefers pain, wearing blood beads about her neck and stern baubles in her ears. She cries glycerol tears. She defers pain, even as it is nailed tactfully into her split self. Thank you.
Thank you. Give that to her so she can, he's going to give you, so you can write up the...
All right, Tony, you're up.
The title of the poem and Steve Mack and sing. And your name.
Tony Alvarado!
Thank you very much. Thank you. After surviving cancer in 2007, I was told by an old Cuban curandera, "Tony, keep writing," that life was gonna be okay. And in the most kindest way I knew how to ask, I asked, "How the hell do you know?" She said, "Because, mijito, you have these spirits inside you. These spirits of 7 cancer surviving clowns flying around the circus inside your body that came to play." I said, "Damn, inside of me?" She said, "See." I said, "What did you say?" She looked right through me and again said, "See." I said, "No, hell no. This just can't be. You said I got 7 clown spirits inside of me?" She nodded her head yes. "See." I whispered, "No way." I said, "Come on, curandera, please make them go away." She said, "They're spirit clowns, Tony. We have no say." So I closed my eyes and invited them to juggle my words and play. So in terms of clowns, there's 7 + 1 at Sacred Grounds at this open mic today. Today I'm your poet payaso. Ole, ole, ole. I've been known to dance around the hands of time at midnight with the spirits of sad-faced clowns while it tried to grab me by my hands, look me in the eye, spin me backwards, and slow me down. Those hands of time, in due time, time will soon pay us all a visit and make us all understand that time is the most precious thing we have and have not. But that type of thing in life is never really taught. Only the spirits of angels and children in heaven and the sad-faced clowns who make children laugh with their painted faces and cone-shaped hats could only ever understand that slow kiss of life's goodbye. And if it's one thing the spirit of a sad-faced clown knows, it's that time sure knows how to fly. With that
Greatest of ease on that life's trapeze. Time sure knows how to fly. Lately, I've been trying to straighten out my crooked life. So I've been sleeping in right angles. But each time I wake up, I still seem to wake up with my head on the wrong side of the bed. And those right angles I'm sleeping in are way more wrong than right. And it doesn't take a therapist to see that I'm not wrapped too tight. See, it's been 17 minus 11 years that I haven't slept through a night. See, my mind has letters floating around the gray matter of its lava lamp in the midst of the white noise in my head, creating words that rhyme time after time after time, having my mind become one big game of Scrabble, and my tongue tied, twisted, and hung turned into its own Tower of Babel. Did I mention I'm not wrapped too tight? Good night.
Next up is Sharon Scott Kish. Give her a nice round of applause. And before she gets started, someone else mentioned an open mic that was new besides Tommy. Martin. Oh, yeah. Martin? Okay, so I'm going to have to. Yeah, no, I got to write him and find out where it is and all that. All right, thank you. Sorry about that, Sharon. I just wanted to get that because I kept on forgetting.
Sorry.
There you go.
One of the guiding philosophies of music is to find your own voice. Thelonious Monk.
Yes.
There are no wrong notes. Thelonious Monk. Music is your own experience, your thoughts, your wisdom, and if you don't live it, it won't come out from your horn. Charlie Parker. Woo! Don't forget the covered dish. You always remember customs. We pass them down generation to generation. How to make a certain dish, a cake, a casserole, jams, jellies. Some women never need a recipe, just a measuring cup. And they don't really need that. They know from the feel of the dough, the thickness of the sauce. It's just right. Taste the dish, they could tell if it was ready. Of course, each person had his specialty, and you could always count on them to bring it to any occasion. Sickness, new babies, new mothers, new house, and of course, funerals. The rules never go anywhere empty-handed. Never arrive with the old saying, a handful of gimme and a mouthful of much obliged. And of course, each dish had a special dish, and that pot that it was cooked in was a good pot, and God forbid you cook the stewed chicken in the vegetable soup pot. Just as important was the dish, mark it with the name with a piece of tape on the bottom. And if not, race to the kitchen to retrieve it before leaving. Race and pride, everyone wanted to be the best cook, adding to the flavor. A quick phone call, have some pots and pans, get them out, open the cabinet. Sometimes they fall down. The men leave the room when that happens. Try to find the matching lid. Damn it, where is it? Oh, Jesus Christ. Or Jesus H. Christ if kids were around. Or shit in Tuesday and farts a fraction. I can't find that lid. A term often used when kids were present. Kids just giggled. They knew what that meant. Men just shook their heads again and left the room. Didn't take long for the sound of rolling pins, knives, and meat cleavers. Soon the smells would start to rise. Women would usually sign up for the same dish, but sometimes a special request, especially if someone was low sick. A family might request a lovely chiffon cake, maybe a pie, a pot of navy beans, ham hocks, some coleslaw and sliced tomatoes, and a little sprig of green beans. No request too large or too small. Glad to do it. And if it was winter, go to dig in the cellar or the pantry. Might even borrow some from the girl down the street. Women know sometimes they take 3 and 4 buses to deliver food. Baby not gaining weight, time for table food. Pull out the food mill, start the pots, get out the small ball, and come on jars. Green beans, peas, peaches, beet, peas, pears. Don't need the mill for bananas. You can do that real easy. Carrots, applesauce, always. Once that baby starts eating table food, it's gonna fatten right up. Sweet potatoes, you can do that. No kid, a baby, doesn't like sweet potatoes or mashed bananas. Death, oh my God, that brings it all out. Pots, pans, phones ring off the hook. Sharpening pencils with knives, making lists. Coordinating dates, time, location, church, halls, homes, lodge halls. Check the Kansas City Call on Friday for the date, time, and place. Some funerals are small, but the big ones are huge productions. Eli Jones, a big union man, city of St. Louis, stops at St. Louis, Kansas City, Denver, and Portland. Good-looking fellow, pillar of the community, big lodge brother. His wife Louise, short woman, buxom, loved her. Married for years, 3 children, 2 boys, 1 girl. She's the apple of his eye. Seems to have trouble with the pressure, as we say in the neighborhood, high blood pressure. He loved to party, and I mean party. And he loved to eat, oh God, could he eat. Phones are ringing, seems Eli had a stroke in Denver. Doesn't look good. A couple of weeks in the hospital, and now he's coming home. Lots of cards, food delivered to the house. 3 months pass, not good. The call comes, he's gone. Lodge buddies go out that night and have tie on a good one. Then they go over to the Chinese chop suey house and home. Next week, the funeral. Church hall is set up. Each car pulls up, and here go into the trunks. Out comes the food. Lodge men with sashes, fezzes, gloves in place. Little kids dolled up. Suits, bow ties, petticoats, ribbons. Mary Jane's white gloves. Women in broad brim hats, gloves, nylons. Those seams are straight. Nut brown powder. Hey, hey. Just a little rouge. Men's shoe shine. Stacy Adams. Sharp as the edge of town. Collars crisp. Chicago Defenders. That's the hat. Fedora, snap brim. Cufflinks, tie bars, all to match. Sermon too long, but they always are too long. Down to the cemetery, usual hysterics. Children love these. Women trying to jump into the coffin. Scares the little kids to death. They're running back to the car. Back to the lodge hall, always much needed bereavement food. Ham, turkey, chicken, and dumplings. Greens, candied sweets. That's sweet potatoes. Green beans, rolls, Parker House rolls, potato bake. Oh boy, roast beef. Gravy, no lumps. Corn on the cob. Homemade chow chow, relish plates, and lots of Jell-O mango. The kids are poking that. Chicken and dressing, and of course macaroni and cheese. Iced tea, Kool-Aid for the kids. Hot coffee. It's good. Time to bless the food. The kids roll their eyes. Let's hope this goes fast. That dessert table looks pretty damn good. Yeah. Lane cake, angel food cake, devil's food, and chess pie, cherry pie, and pineapple pie. Everybody's eating. Everybody's eating. And the minister is still trying to bless some more food. Nobody's going for that. And the kids are over there wiping their tears. It's so funny. The men are in the back, and there's a woman in the back with 3 kids. And she's almost passed out. The kids are trying to comfort her, and the guys rush her out of the hall. Seems like his widow, Louise, is very upset. Looks like the kids think, the little kids look like they could have been fun. Next day, all phone lines busy, kids sent outside, doors are closed. Men all race to the lodge hall. But some kids overheard a few things at breakfast the next morning. Determined the little girls are to find out, what's that movie Backstreet? And why would they say something about that woman about a backstreet affair?
Hal, you're up. Hal Robbins, you're up. And Pablo is on deck.
Hal up, Pablo on deck.
In keeping with tonight's theme, which some people did, this is a revised version of a poem I produced in an illustrated edition more than 40-odd years ago in a publication too obscure to be of interest. It's called Always Chew Your Food. My mother used to tell me, boy, it's unrefined and crude to wolf your dinner, Fletcherize, always chew your food. For in those days the name of Horace Fletcher was renowned. How did he come to have his theories known the world around? In 1889, a San Francisco import buyer, Horace Fletcher, businessman, was ready to retire. Although of solid middle age, his portly cheeriness he found impacted by a strange and troubling weariness. So Horace hit the books, so hoping by research to find an answer to the problem which now occupied his mind. Gladstone, the British statesman, wrote, "Our teeth are 32. Thus, nature clearly furnished us one tooth for every chew." But Fletcher's insight made Gladstone seem wet behind the ears. Just chew your food so many times, it simply disappears. Endorsed by leading scientists and ministers of state, soon Fletcherism thrived among the lowly and the great. To clinics and physicians, thoughtful Horace mailed a gift of perfect elimination he invited them to sift. Yet something somehow was not right, and Horace felt unwell. Quietly he checked into the clinic for a spell. Nor did death's shadow alter his experiments with food. Though he lay dwindling, now he spit out everything he chewed. All of his teeth were rotten and his bowels blocked with sludge. The doctors argued back and forth, but Horace wouldn't budge. So Horace perished. I advise to end this interlude. Dine on new theories by all means, but always chew your food. Anything left time-wise?
Yes, you have like about a minute-ish.
All right, I'll try this one from Hilaire Belloc's Cautionary Rhymes. The story of Jim, who ran away from his nurse and was eaten by a lion. There was a boy whose name was Jim. His friends were very good to him. They gave him tea and cakes and jam and slices of delicious ham and chocolates with pink inside and little tricycles to ride. They read him stories through and through and even took him to the zoo. But there it was, the dreadful fate befell him, which I now relate. You know, or at least you ought to know, for I have often told you so, that children never are allowed to leave their nurses in a crowd. Now this was Jim's especial foible. He ran away when he was able, and on this inauspicious day, he slipped his hand and ran away. He hadn't got a yard when, bang, with open jaws a lion sprang, and hungrily began to eat the boy, beginning with his feet. Now just imagine how it feels when first your toes and then your heels and then by gradual degrees your calves and ankles, shins and knees are slowly eaten bit by bit. No wonder Jim detested it. No wonder that he shouted, "Hi!" The honest keeper heard his cry. Though very fat, he almost ran to help the little gentleman. "Ponto!" he ordered as he came, since Ponto was the lion's name. "Ponto!" he shouted with a frown. "Drop it! Let go, sir! Set it down!" The lion made a sudden stop and let the dainty morsel drop, and slunk reluctant to his cage, snarling in disappointed rage. But when he bent him over Jim, the honest keeper's eyes grew dim. The lion having reached his head, the miserable boy was dead. When Nurse informed his parents, they were more concerned than I can say. His mother, as she dried her eyes, said, "Well, this comes as no surprise. He would not do as he was told." His father, who was self-controlled, bade all the children round attend to James's miserable end, and always keep a hold of Nurse for fear of catching something worse.
Pablo, you're up. And Rob is on deck.
Well, I brought a new poem. I haven't read this one this first time, so it's a work in progress, as they all are. But thanks for indulging me. I think you'll like the title. From Out of the Mist of Dark Nebulae, the Origin of Matter. Thank you very much. I'm done. Okay. From out of the mist of dark nebulae, the origin of matter. 1. Scientists say we are made of distant stars, of interstellar atoms and particles, remnants of an ancient galactic starburst, a great supernova explosion from out of the mist of dark nebulae, 10 zillion light years away. Then, all the known elements of our periodic table were clustered and jettisoned across the universe like fiery comets. Their trajectories and vectors, deteriorating points of geometric descension, and final destinations unknown to all, except Jehovah God, the Creator. 2. The first time ever I saw your face, I do believe there was stardust in my eyes. For I visualized creation's beginning and imagined hearing the exuberance of all the angels applauding in unison. I time traveled the expanse at the speed of light and marveled at the stark contrast between chance and destiny, time and space, and came to understand exactly how the soul and the spirit are united and divided. 3. That is the way I witness the origin of matter. And from out of the mist of dark nebulae, I discovered what matters to me. I, infinitesimal being, drunk with the great starry void likeness, image of mystery. I called to mind Psalm 8, 3, and 4 and pondered my insignificance in relation to the great semi-rhetorical question, what is mortal man that you keep him in mind? And the son of earthly man that you take care of him. In the humility of my humanity, I bathed in the waters of truth and revelation and was nourished in the bosom of God. 4. Still in awe, the invisible mystery that will always fascinate me is the secret person at the heart of you, where the truest of beauty abides eternally, created from within the mist, as I could only imagine, from 10 zillion light years away. This last poem is called, it's an older poem called Wonder Woman of the World. I left my poetic heart in San Francisco, came back for it, only to discover that it turned to the east and floated across the bay, cloned and transformed itself into 2 poetic, symbiotic hearts, kindred spirits who named themselves Nemia, the taller, and Elixir, the smaller, wonder women of the world. They echoed my name over the waters, carved a message on a smooth, heart-shaped stone, and skipped it across the bay. The stone came a-whistling as it skipped and sputtered, landing at my feet, dripping wet, like a bleeding heart. I collected the stone, held it firmly in one hand while drying it off with the other. I named the stone Smooth Otis, just for the hell of it. But intuitively sullen and saddened, I was afraid to look at the words, so I read their poetic etchings like a blind man with trembling fingertips. And in the palm of my head, I grasped the meaning of the words, thus no longer sad, for the poetic message had said, remember me this, Pablo. These hearts of yours will always be yours. What's mine is yours, what's yours is mine, but all that is ours belongs to the world. Therefore, the world must also be ours, and ours for the taking. With that, they boarded a boat and set sail for the vanishing blue horizon, toward their mission, toward their destiny, toward their conquest, toward the world. This time, leaving me behind, sitting at the dock of the bay, with Smooth Otis, whistling and wondering wonderfully in San Francisco.
Thank you very much.
Alright, Rob, you're up, and Garrett is on deck. After Garrett, 1, 2, and then 2 left. Which replaces 5.
I'm afraid that I'm going to dream about spirit clowns tonight, and it won't be a good dream.
But they have red shoes.
Yes. When I was writing this a few weeks ago, Britt did a poem about the very same topic. So, Britt, I will ask you, do you know who Tsutomu Yamaguchi was?
No.
All right. The second part of that question I will put to the room just because Dr. Hal is with us. Does anyone remember who Violet Jessup was?
No, I can't tell you.
Well, you're about to find out. This is called The Ballad of Violet and Tsutomu.
Oh, good.
In 1912, Violet was a stewardess when the RMS Titanic set sail. She ended up in Lifeboat 16. For once in her life, it paid to be female. In 1916, she'd become a nurse, serving on the RMS Britannic. Unsinkable, like its sister. Unsinkable, so nobody panic. But a German mine sank Britannic, went down twice as fast as Titanic. Violet jumped and was nearly sucked under, but again she lived. Ain't it a wonder? Violet and Tsutomu's such a happy pair, though maybe the story's not true. But if they gave you a dinner invite, you wouldn't be late, would you? Tsutomu went on a business trip in 1945 when Hiroshima went boom. He somehow survived. Battered and bloody, straight home went he. The name of his home, Nagasaki. Wrapped in bandages, he went to work. His boss called him an attention-seeking jerk. 3 hours later, his world again went boom. But again he lived. Such caprices of doom. After the war, weary of nuclear weather, he found Violet and said, we're birds of a feather. For 25 years they were side by side. They skipped the honeymoon cruise. they stayed inside. Violet and Tsutomu, such a happy pair, though maybe it never took place. But if they invited you to tea to their home, you'd quickly race. At the end of his life, he offered this thought, and maybe it bears repeating. For nuclear powers, all governmental leading should come from mothers breastfeeding. Violet and Tsutomu, such a happy pair. Who cares if they never even met? For if they gave you a dinner invite, that's a night you'd never forget.
And Shannon, you're on deck. Garrett.
Oh, here. There he is. All right, he's a...
Tall drink of water.
That should be
G says Gina. G says Gina. We are just so surprised. We had absolutely no idea that our Negro was so sad about life here. Gee, how is it that they weren't as satisfied as we were with their hospitality towards sparing us all our mundane work? We thought they were happy as we were about being in a lower status than we. Gee was just a little cross. You know, just a little prank. Gee, for all we knew, the good boys were simply planning Early for Halloween. Ah, gee, they shouldn't have been so sensitive about good old boy Reese joshing about erasing them with the stroke of a pen. You know he's always going off like that. Couldn't they see it's just a joke? And gee whiz, how were we to know that they didn't like the initiation in the early darky manhood? You know, maximum sentencing and all. They could have been just a tad grateful. Why, we rushed them ahead of our own. Is that not what affirmative action is all about? Oh, gee willikers, I guess the time to call out with us. No more fun and games with Mr. Crow. Our dream has come to a crashing end. Everyone's looking and talking now, even with our strongest supporters in years in power. We're just going to have to get used to the terms black and African American, let alone sir, madam, Mr., Ms., doctor, or even the dreaded first name. My idea for a new kind of TV show. While I was sitting at home one day, I got an idea for a new type of TV show. The storyline went as follows. The media of such and such a country has been taken over by one cold-hearted big brother. It saturates the populace with unquestioning reverence towards authority, large and small, under the guise of heartwarming family values. In this such and such a country, the schoolyard bully, for example, has become the virtuous hero of the drama, the comedies, the court shows, the news, and even though all three branches of government. And the populace is completely enervated. They have learned to enjoy seeing humiliation, even their own, on a daily basis. Shouting matches are the tonic of the day, no warm and fuzzy what the school children hear. Whippings, beatings, slams on the walls, and tests, and more tests win the day here. Police ride roughshod over those who are different, be it by race, nationality, religion, or none other immutable, and are subject to medals, promotions, and veneration, especially if they overreact and kill or maim. Why the country's own caretaker, the schoolyard bully, come to extend his skills learned on the playground and extend it to the city, county, state, and nation, to the rest of the world, simply because he can. Now, of course, there must be a few opposed to all this, but they shall not win. These you see are the new bad guys who are traitors of this such and such a country, and bad guys never win. All have learned to love the perpetrator and to hell with the victims. How's that for a new type of TV show? I sent the idea to the producers of programming, surely they can see the numbers multiplying in their heads. A few weeks passed before I heard from them. Finally, the response from them came in the form of an envelope, and I got the shock in my lap as I read. Dear sir, we regret to inform you that we have rejected your proposal for lack of originality. We suggest you develop an imagination or perhaps become a journalist. For your work, you see, as written as is nothing more than a simple diary of a very routine day.
Abraham, you're on deck.
You're new here, right?
Yes, first time.
First time for Shannon, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, guys. I'm super excited to be here. I'll try not to trip over myself. I'm pretty. I don't do the best with stage fright, so.
Well, the stage is not a front. Just get really close to the mic because of the other mic
Okay.
here.
Great. Dear ego, you've gotten into me a lot of trouble lately. Like taking up too much space, refusing to admit mistakes. Self-awareness doesn't intimidate you. In its presence, you never show your face. Should I starve you? Maybe that'll shake you off. But you don't pulverize under pressure. You lie dormant, weeks into winter, and at the slightest hint of flattery, spring up from the snow, puff up your chest, fluff your feathers, and strut like a turkey. Ego, nothing can quench your thirst for attention. You are quicksand with the appetite of an avalanche. When I hand you a cup, you ask for a pint. When given a pint, you beg for a lake. I worry, if you are brazen enough to ask for the ocean, nothing will ever make you happy, not even the planet in your palms. But I know it's not entirely fair to call you an enemy. We are connected by a cord. It might be destiny. Though we have our duels, you've never left me. Even when my world was quaking, my confidence shaking. You gifted me strength to stand my ground, fire to chase my dreams, hope to face forward, courage to let go. You will go on without him, you smiled. I listened, and it worked. I'm not much of a talker, but I'm a big reader, and sometimes I run across these passages that I can't get enough of, and this is one of them. It's from the book Eating the Sun by Ella Sanders. It's meant to be prose, but I thought it flowed so smoothly like poetry, so I'm really excited to share this. A sense of wonder can find you in many forms, sometimes loudly, sometimes whispering, sometimes hiding inside of other feelings, being in love, unbalanced, or blue. For me, it's looking at the night for so long that my eyes ache and I'm stuck seeing stars for hours afterwards, watching the way the ocean sways itself to sleep, or as the sky washes itself in colors that I will never have the words. A world made from layers of rock and fossil and glittered imaginings that keeps tripping me up, demanding I pay attention to one leaf at a time, ensuring I can never pick up quite where I left off. A lot of our time is spent tying up loose ends, trying to shape disorder into something recognizably smooth, trying to escape the very limits that hold us close, skipping over rough edges and gray lines. We separate ourselves into past, present, future, if only to show that we have changed, that we know better, that we have understood something inherent, and only to draw neat lines from start to finish without looking back. The problem is that chaos is always only ever sitting just across the table, frequently glancing up from its newspaper, from its coffee cup, filled with discolored and imploding stars. Because chaos, too, waits. It waits for you to notice it, for you to realize it's the most dazzling thing you've ever seen, for all of your atoms to collectively shriek in belated recognition and stare, mouth open, at how exquisitely it is embedded in everything. Because we are not designed to be more orderly than anything else. Seams have a tendency to come apart with time. You and the universe are the same in this way. So then, if you can't ever end things neatly, can't ever put them back quite the way you found them, surely the alternative is to remain stubbornly carbonated with possibility, to never rest from your rotation, to keep assembling stories between us, stories about how much we loved, stories about how everything was everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.
Abraham, you're up.
So I didn't write a poem because I didn't know I'd be presenting, but instead I'll be reading 2 poems by the great author Shel Silverstein. I first read his books when I was about 6th grade, and it felt more of a chore than something I'd like to do. The only concept of love that I had was watching my parents slow dance, and I thought it was disgusting. I never thought I'd be in a position to be able to relate to one of these poems, but a couple years later I'm grateful to say that I am. Lay down. Let's explore this tenderness between us. There ain't no one around at all to see us. And baby, would you mind if maybe you and I took a little time to find each other? Baby, we got all the time in the world, so why don't we just take it nice and slow? We got everything we need to plant a loving seed, and all the time we need to watch it grow. Stay down, stay at least until the fire stops burning, at least until the room has stopped its turning, and when the ember's dying, we're lying in the afterglow, it'll be as sweet as anything we've ever known. Baby, we got all the time in the world, so why don't we just take it nice and slow? We got everything we need to plant a loving seed, and all the time we need to watch it grow. Thank you. The next one is called A Couple More Years. It's one of his more popular ones. I've got a couple more years on you, baby, that's all. I've had more chances to fly and more places to fall. And it ain't that I'm wiser, it's only that I've spent more time with my back to the wall. I picked up a couple more years on you, baby, that's all. Walked a couple more rows than you, baby, that's all. And I'm tired of running while you're only learning to crawl. And you're heading somewhere, but I've been to somewhere and found it was nowhere at all. And I picked up a couple of years on you, baby, that's all. Now saying goodbye, girl, don't ever come easy at all. But you got to fly because you're hearing those young eagles call. And someday when you're older, you smile at a man so tall and strong, and you'll say, I've got a couple more years on you, baby, that's all. I've got a couple more years on you, baby, that's all. You say I've had more chances to fly and more places to fall. It ain't that I'm wiser, it's only that I've spent more time with my back to the wall, and I've picked up a couple more years on you, baby, that's all.
And Nicholas, you're on deck.
Nicholas! Come on, you got it out of
This is John.
That's Jonathan.
That's John.
Thank you. That's my #1 fan. Unfortunately, I do not connect to the theme, but I hope you still enjoy. This
It's
first.
all right. It's an advisory thing.
Appreciate you. So the first one's called "Thoughts as Lyrics."
Big more into the mic. Yeah.
Appreciate it. This train stutters traps and hi-hats. On the tracks of chapped, cracked rails, it's Bart. It's me on the train, tapping feet and moving to a quiet beat. Drummers on the corner with plastic tubes. I get up my seat trying to catch a glance of what it was, how it sounded. A tunnel rolls by and we're in privileged land. The audacity to turn cherished history into white fantasy. I think to myself, a native land, now Candyland, a colored person's world, but a rich man's planet. Next stop, systematic oppression. Old-fashioned vibes replaced with temporary visual lies. At least that's what it seemed to me. People of color seem to lose all their color. Once they're seen, it turns into a strip and search. Lost my train of thought as another tunnel passes. This train clearly speaks soothing rails, stainless steel and no rusted nails. See, my thoughts take this train to find more than something. It's my stop, the place I used to know. Thank you. Give me a moment as I find this next one. This next one's called Droplets. I did what I'd done. It's never that I didn't finish what I had to do. If time says to go, I finished. Nothing was ever unfinished, just how some things go. Droplets, good, bad, water, rain to grow the plants, tears of joy to tears of sadness, blood dripping. I left my droplets through my words, just that one droplet and how it spreads. Even when you wipe it, it's still on you, in you, and with you. Just that tiny spot of cleansing. I'm there with you in the slightest and can be there in the long run only if you let me. Don't feel the need to finish my quote-unquote unfinished life. Find your purpose, do what you love, leave your droplets, and let time tell your finished product. The millions of droplets of rain were taken for granted, but one shed of a tear meant everything. When it rains, think of me. When you bleed, think of me. When you cry, think of me. I'll be there, always, a droplet.
Nicholas, you're up. And Donovan is on deck for our last word.
Work it out, Nicholas.
Hello, how you doing?
Is that Nicholas?
Yes, it is. All right,
My God, it's Nicholas in the house.
I'm gonna try to read four for you, time permitting. I'll snap in between each one so I don't take up too much time. Some background. I picked the theme for tonight, which was food for the soul. I did not know the next day I would eat something that would allow me to enjoy a spiritual experience. These are writings from what I was inspired by. A proverb. The most formidable. Let me start over. My bad. The most. The most formidable of men is he who proclaims loudly his vulnerabilities. The others, they hide their scars while he walks naked and unintimidated. What would it take for me to woo you and win you over? I try to say things that will move you, make my words your controller, perfect plasticine princess, shaped by the hands of a sculptor divine. You must be his masterpiece and I, your most awestruck observer. I feign interest in the profane, so as not to crush you under the weight of my gaze. I stand at a distance and have tamed my wandering, tempted hands, for they are hungry for your flesh, like starved wolves in search of carrion. I would not, for the world, let my love be the reason that you crumble. Words were me, and all words were mine. I would that I were eternal as is time. The ocean swells, her waves licking at my feet, as if to take a taste of my being, as if to decide whether I am cancer or cured. Her tongue feels strange, cold, and foreign, but its slight pull, an indicator of her intentions to swallow me whole, reminds me that I am the strange, cold, and foreign, that her mouth agape is her providing a pit with which I can plunge into and remove myself from these lands upon which I am poisoned. My skin cast in an alien image, yet sustained by the fruits that are sustained by her juices. At an eternal crossroads, each curve presents the choice to be the destroyer or as God should. My last one. Polluting these pure sands with our problems as proletarians, venting our frustrations into the air like gasoline fumes, our mouths the exhaust pipes, speaking not to each other in particular but to the air. Our ideas and futile hopes are but prayers hidden in deep angst. Each laugh conceals within its hysterics a bitterness of the harshest nature. These things are vultures hovering overhead,
hoping that we see to them, that we surrender our wills, give up, and accept our inevitable deaths before our sun's true setting. We eat, no longer for sustenance, not even for the soul. That thing will ache until we are saved by some other god of a religion long forgotten, of a religion whose record was burned by inquisitors and misled missionaries carrying out missions most heinous. It will ache until we are saved by some other god who decides to intervene and save his or her or its children, who can see that we cannot climb up from this vast pit into which we have dug ourselves. We look more akin to crabs in a barrel than creatures crafted in divine image. We eat no longer for sustenance, but as an act of defiance against God, Allah, Jehovah, Jah, Yeshua, the Father most neglectful, who neglects the needs of his children, who longs for the judgment day and takes and takes and takes and takes life, and in turn happiness from his misled and tempted children, who has been fooled into believing their earth is a playground rather than a temple most precious, more sacred than any holy land, any church or mosque to which we have assigned make-believe meaning, any place where prayer is so often unknowingly misconstrued with pride and vain, selfish desire. We eat as if to tell him, not today will I be sentenced to burn for simply not proclaiming unto him my love, him the God of creation, callousness and cruelty, the leaders of this peaceful resistance. We remix Gandhi's good works, and instead of a fast, we eat to prolong our fates because we still believe there will be a better day, that we can become gods and change the world in a better way. We eat as if to tell him, not today.
Now he's coming back because he's the last word. That's one of the door prizes. Last word starts and ends the second show, so he's here wrapping it up for us, and then we're going to take care of these door prizes, and I'm going to go to Balaclava Land.
Why do you need a gun? Okay, let me get out the way that if your occupation has any relation to the protection of people with other vocations or on vacation, then you can have a gun. But do I need a gun? Do you? No. I'm sorry, but actually I'm not sorry, because there's no fucking way we should be allowed to carry a handgun or a rifle into a crowd. It's insane to me how easy it is to just point and click to end a life. It's insane to me how easy it is to just go out and buy a tool for murder. If you love guns and would never hurt anyone, it's fucking plain irresponsible to have those things lying around in the hands of civilians. We're not gonna overthrow the British anytime soon. We can't fire bullets at an oncoming monsoon. And the US government's gone to the moon. They have goddamn nukes and drones. What's your little AR gonna do? Kill the next generation? Simone, can you hand me my phone, please? The only two women I've ever slept with had both been assigned to me as partners in Professor Tiatia's class. Assigned. I wonder how much of my relationships are a product of my own agency versus random chance. And by some random chance, if some girl I've seen in passing glance turns to an object of romance, would my love advances and masculine stances turn to a thorn flower with a lifespan less than 1 hour? And did I really plant that seed, or by luck was it given to me? Last one. Could some heaven-sent hand save me from this turbulently bland pattern of emotional disarray? At the ends of my days, my fickle displays of stability reach a breaking point. I fall into the pit of a heart disjoint. Maybe the poems could start to numb wherever the emptiness comes from. I'd do most anything for any sum of a consistent feeling. Instead, I'm met with a cacophony of uncertainty. I'm green and yellow now, but who knows in an hour? Mood soured, depressed, stretched and stressed, and full of tension like I'm pulled on both ends. The ends of my days are when I can't bear to face the lies of most of my time. If I were to let these feelings show outside of open mic and rhyme, would that be a crime? Most of my time spent wrapped in plastic. I poke holes for my mouth to breathe, but not to speak. I poke holes for my eyes to watch, but never to see. I play at plastic, platonic promises with people I don't care to see. I give them the common courtesy of respect, even if they don't reflect that sentiment. And what is meant by that phrase, heaven sent? Heaven isn't real. What's even appealing about feeling always happy, ever sappy, living gladly? I don't want joy that badly to give in to the ploy of some floral morals that could die when spring ends. The beginning and ending ends of my days are shit, but I'd rather sit in unstable sorrow than a false belief that a God is here for me. What is heaven sent? Help that never comes, I'm adamant. Because the only thing in God's repertoire is abandonment. I dug my grave and I sat in it, but at least I don't lie to myself with false hope from the Pope or some other dope with a tired book.
Show if you've been moved like I was. So we got all these door prizes over here, and if you read, you signed your name. You put your name next to a number, and then I have these cards with numbers on them, and I've been shuffling them obsessively. And one of you can shuffle well. Shuffle well. I've been shuffling those, and we have a support your local poet T-shirt. We have Pirate Hunters. Branford Marsalis Trio, Tony Bennett. Why don't you write my eulogy now so I can correct it? A nice super. Wildlife, the Arctic, I hear it's melting. Jack Foley's Unmanageable Masterpiece. It's a great piece of literature about the history of writing in the Bay Area, California. And this is Crash Landing from the Stars. Penny Whistle in the Key of F. A recorder, I think it's a mic. Is this a bass recorder? Do you know? I don't know. Might be a bass recorder because it has two parts. And then there's being a co-pilot. There's two chances for that. Keynote, choose the theme, do the last word like Donovan just did, coming up twice. And then the mini feature, which was Tommy Avicall in the Mecca today. He gets an extra chunk of time in the second half. So, what is our first number? Oh.
21.
21 is? Who's 21?
Tony.
Me? Wow.
Tony!
Tony Bennett.
Tony!
Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett?
Yeah.
Tony wants Tony Bennett. Okay.
All right, 19.
Tom.
Numbers have kind of changed.
Tommy, you said?
Yeah. Tommy.
Tommy. Got the two.
Work it out. That's me, right?